Hey, this is Seth from USV, and today I'm going to be talking about school shootings because this is a major problem. And if you want to just log off the video because you don't want to listen to this, you can, which I do not blame you for because honestly, I didn't super want to do a video on this because it's kind of sad and messed up. So, as you can see, yeah, when you look up this, it's all scary, awful images. And so I kind of did a tiny bit of research compared to what I should have done, and I kind of just looked up Florida school shooting because that's the most recent one, and it popped up with like several results, and I kind of just went through and found four sources, and one of them was CNN, Time.com, PBS.org, and the New York Times. Okay, and I'm okay. So first, after the school shooting, a lot of people that were from that school went to the Capitol and said, hey, we want more gun control because we don't want this to happen again. And it says the Florida State House on Tuesday rejected a ban on many semi-automatic guns and large capacity magazines. And yeah, so, and a lot of people were very sad about this. And as it says here, it seemed almost heartless how they immediately pushed the button to say no. And they I'm trying to stay as unbiased as possible, but I really do feel for some of these people. So I'm gonna hold my opinion until the end of the video. Okay. So and yeah, I kind of messed up with the highlighting here, but all of this is important. So it's saying it's talking about Nicholas Cruz, which was the shooter, and he killed 17 people, and it it shows how it shows how we know how we think he did it, which was Nicholas Cruz, 19, told police he was responsible for the shooting, and added that he hid extra ammunition in his backpack and shot a bunch of people. Yeah. So Cruz arrived at the school, taking an Uber, then took the so he had a case and took an AR-15 out of it and shot up a bunch of classrooms and stuff like that. And so he dropped the AR-15 and his vest, which apparently had a vest, and just kind of blended in with the rest of the students, and then left. So he says he then went to Walmart, went to Subway, and McDonald's, and then he was taken into police custody. So they arrested him. So yeah, so there was a, and the interesting thing is that there was a comment on a YouTube channel from somebody that said, "I'm going to be a professional school shooter," and they couldn't find out who it was. Da 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 da. But the username on the comment was Nicholas Cruz. So yeah, and there's a bunch of stuff that yeah. So and this is one of the most important things is the details of Cruz's online comments came as former classmates, teachers, and neighbors have said they long feared Cruz may have been capable of violence. Cruz, a former student at the school, was expelled last year for disciplinary reasons, which means a lot of people thought that this was going to happen, or that something bad was going to happen, and yet no actions were taken to stop any of this. So, and I almost, it pains me to read this, not because it's bad, but because it's very incorrect. So, authorities said the gunman used an AR-15 rifle, a semi-automatic weapon made for military use and seen in other mass shootings, including the nightclub massacre in Orlando. So, and it said he wore a mask and carried smoke grenades. So, mask and smoke grenades, obviously, whoa, that's just, whoa. So, and I'm not sure about that because this is the only source that says that. So, it says he used an AR-15 rifle, which is made for military use, and it is not made for military use. I'm sure the military has used it, but it was not made. And my brother just commented, "No, it hasn't," which, yeah, it probably hasn't. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, they use M16s. Anyway, so it has been responsible for, and it has not been responsible. People have been responsible for some other mass shootings. So, yeah. And when you look in an AR-15, it looks pretty scary. And I saw this video of this person. She was a reporter that was like, "Oh, well, we need to have a ban on all assault rifles, including the AR-15 and guns that have a barrel shroud." So I want you, as a viewer, to point out what the barrel shroud is. And the reporter said the shoulder thing that I think she said the shoulder thing that goes up, which no, no. The, she's describing the stock, but the barrel shroud is right here. And when you see a hunting rifle, which an AR-15 is commonly used for hunting, you don't see a barrel shroud because they just don't need it. But they are though, Eric. Yeah, people use them for hunting. Anyway, so my brother is like being annoying. So yeah, he says they're not used for hunting, which I mean they kind of are. Anyway, so they're scary looking if you look at one for the first time. You're like, well, these look like they could kill a bunch of people and da 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 da. And yeah, I mean it's a semi-automatic gun. It can, but so can a pistol, which is smaller, easier to hide, and doesn't require a person to bring a case with a gun in it to a school. You can just hide it in your pocket or your backpack or wherever. So if you're gonna ban anything, ban small guns because that's what people use most of the time. But you're not gonna do that because that's just irrational. Yeah, because they don't like scary. So the next source says, but within the hours, so a bunch of kids went to the Capitol and said we want bans on assault rifles. So it says, I want to revive the gun control movement. And then it says, earlier for some reason, but within the hours, the gun friendly legislator had effectively halted any possibility of banning assault rifles like the one used in the attack. And I'm not gonna do anything about the assault rifles thing, because, I mean, every single time I read that, it pains me. Okay, so next, I think, yeah, I didn't do any other marking. So, in the last few days, teachers wrote to okay, so yeah, this is the New York Times. So, in the last few days, teachers wrote to Congress urging bans on assault weapons and to state lawmakers seeking permission to carry firearms to school. They attended local protests and reviewed safety plans with students. So, they wanted bans on assault weapons and they wanted to carry firearms to school. Which, yeah, I mean, you can say what you want. So, before I get into these other two things, I want to talk about, because a lot of people say, "Oh, well, the the amendment that says, oh, well, guns that Americans have the rights to have guns isn't for home defense or hunting or anything like that. That's not what that was made for. Because the amendment was made so that the people have the right to prevent tyranny. And if tyranny ever occurs, that they have the tools to get rid of it. So, and you're like, and many people are like, oh, well, tyranny is not going to happen in America. That just won't work. But the thing is, it tyranny at its height has not occurred yet, but a lot of things are that are super messed up have occurred that we might need to that the people might need to use force for. So, and and again, I want to talk about the effect of banning some of these guns, okay? So, I made a little kind of crude drawing. Okay, so at the bottom line, there is a knife and a hand, which is supposed to resemble a fist. And this is not smiling, but also not frowning. So, this is kind of the bottom level of if violence is gonna occur, it's either gonna be people beating up other people or stabbings, which occur everywhere. So, and then in the middle, there are guns. So, and this is kind of a serious face because it's kind of in the middle where they can cause some damage, but they can be kind of good. So, and then on the top we have a sad face, which is bombs, which I really want to talk about because let's say you completely got rid of guns, where guns were never invented. So we would be left with these other things. So first, you would have a lot more stabbings and beatings because you can't just threaten somebody with a gun because you don't have those. So you have to do other stuff to get your point across and whatever. It depends on the situation. So, and then there are people that if they want to make if they and like this like the person who shot up the school in Florida, if they really wanted to kill a bunch of people, they would find a way to kill a bunch of people. Yes, not being able to buy an AR-15 at the store would slow them down a little bit, but you can still buy guns, you can still buy knives, and there's also waiting a little bit and doing things that are completely awful. Because people say, oh, well, school shootings are awful because I think in this one 17 people were killed. And that's awful. I mean, that's just terrible. But, and a lot of people don't like people saying this, but it's kind of small potatoes compared to some of the other things that have happened with this higher level, which is bombs, such as people blowing up federal buildings, which was an effect of some other different thing that we're going to get into in a little bit, which killed hundreds of people and injured about, I think, a little over 1,000. And there's small bombings that kill like tens of people, and then there's things where there's pipe bombs and all these sorts of bombs that people use all the time if they can't just go and kill a bunch of people with guns or knives or whatever. So when you want to kill a bunch of people, you're gonna find a way. And if they, and this is kind of a low bar, but if they can have guns, then they'll kill like 14 people in a shooting, and then hopefully they will get killed or arrested. But when you get into a situation like the bombing during the marathon, it can get very awful very quickly. Where you don't know if there's only one bomb. So if let's say there's a marathon and boom, a stand blows up or something where a bunch of people die, then you don't know who did it. You don't know where that person is. You don't know if he's going to do it again or if there are other things hidden elsewhere. So there could be dozens more bombs all across that city, or there could be just that one thing. You don't know, and that's scary. Because with a shooter, you know, oh, there's a guy in this spot, and we can get to him, and once he's stopped, then that incident is stopped. But with explosives, it takes a long time to figure out who did it and to get to them and make sure that they didn't have other bombs. And it's kind of cruel because thousands of people can die or get hurt compared to which nobody should die, but people are going to whether maybe because people are crazy. I mean, this is just gonna happen. So anyway, so I'm just gonna get rid of that. That's discard. And it does pain me to see things like assault weapons because, and oh my god, so if you look up is the AR-15 an assault rifle, you'll see people also ask, is an AR-15 considered an assault rifle? And the first thing that pops up is first, this AR doesn't stand for assault rifle. And in here it says the AR in AR-15 stands for Armalite rifle, after the company that developed it in the 1950s. AR-15 style rifles are not assault weapons or assault rifles. An assault rifle is fully automatic, which is a machine gun. It shoots when you hold the trigger, it shoots da 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 da. So, and automatic firearms have been severely restricted from civilian ownership. So it is not an assault rifle. But the thing is, this is such a common belief that even though the truth is that it isn't, pretty much everything after this is all assault rifle, assault rifle, assault rifle. AR-15 assault style rifle, assault rifle, da 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 da. And and even right below this, it says age limit for buying AR-15 assault rifle, which no, it isn't. And even if it was, and we should get rid of it, or da 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 da, this isn't a good idea because very bad things can happen when people aren't when this is so hard to explain. And I know that a lot of people are mad at me right now because they're like, "Oh, well, these are awful things that need to be stopped." And they definitely need to be stopped, but this isn't the right way to stop them. And if you and okay, so I'm going to click on this link and it's called Ruby Ridge. And this was extremely messed up. It's one of the most messed up things that I've heard of. So basically, as a summary, so Randy Weaver was charged with some sort of charge about weapons, and a, and a lot of people were against him, and they did. And I've heard this from other sources, not Wikipedia, but it's that a sting operation that was classified as entrapment later, which means a sting operation is, let's say, walking is somebody dressing up like a prostitute and walking down the street and having somebody walk over to them and ask for that. So that means that they didn't persuade that person to walk over there. But entrapment is when you go and ask somebody, "Hey, can you do this?" and they're like, and they're not, "Oh yeah, I can do that." They're like, "Wait a minute, I don't," because they don't know that it's wrong, but they wouldn't do it normally. So yeah, I'm not even sure about that, but anyway, so a lot of messed up stuff happens. So I really recommend that you read this because it's awful. And so Randy Weaver was living with his family in a cabin, and it was kind of just like on a not on a mountain, but like a hill or a mountain. I don't know. Not totally sure. So the ATF, which is Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, went to arrest him because of this, because they had something about firearms going on. And his son and their dog was outside, and when some people from the ATF were going towards his house, the dog started barking and running towards them. So they ended up shooting the dog, and the son had a gun because he was out hunting. And what ended up happening was the ATF officers shot the dog and killed it, and then shot his son and killed him also. And then later there was a siege on the cabin with him with Randy Weaver, his wife, their I think 11-month-old daughter, and his friend, which was called his name was Kevin Harris. So yeah, his as it shows his anyway. So there was a helicopter that was going around, and there was a sharpshooter in it, and so somebody was running from I think a shed to the house, and he was in. So his Randy the family friend Kevin was running into the house, and when Randy's wife opened the door, the sharpshooter shot Kevin in the shoulder, and since he was walking in, they basically tried to shoot him, but hit Randy's wife and killed her. And his and they were just sitting there because his friend was wounded because he was shot in the shoulder, and his wife and son had his wife's son and dog had died. So they ended up just getting him. They ended up arresting him, and as you can see somewhere over here, because they shot him in the back, and it was while he was lifting the latch on the shed to visit the body of his dead son. And then, as Weaver and Harris ran back towards the house, he fired a second bullet, killing Vicky Weaver and wounding Harris in the chest. So Vicky Weaver was standing behind the door through which Harris was entering the house, holding their 10-month-old baby in her arms, and she was killed. So what ended up happening was they went to trial, and he was charged with a bunch of stuff, and they eventually, after serving some time, they tried to charge Kevin Harris twice with the same thing, which is double jeopardy. And what ended up happening was they spent some time in prison, and so the surviving members of the Weaver family filed a wrongful death suit for $200 million. In an out-of-court settlement, the federal government awarded Randy Weaver $100,000 and his three daughters $1 million each, and they did not admit any wrongdoing in the deaths of his son or wife. So they basically said, here's some money, but we didn't do anything wrong when we killed your wife and son. And yeah, which, as I said, when I was talking about the bombs, that something happened because of this, and this was the incident along with it. It ultimately became Timothy McVeigh's I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but their motive for the Oklahoma City bombing, which resulted in their mass murder of 168 people, which was a retaliation their for the federal government's handling of the incidents. So yeah, they bombed a federal building and killed 168 people because of that, which, when compared to some school shootings, of some because of his, and a little background on why this guy did this was he was kind of mental. It's not he was screwed up or anything, but in 2017 his mother died, and he ended up living with his friends for for basically all the time up until that. And I was thinking, what are some things in common about this? Because I was trying to think about how to link all these things together and what we should do about this. And I was thinking, okay, well, a lot of school shooters have mental disorders. A lot of them are bullied, and yeah. So, and one other thing I forgot, but and oh, and a lot of people are described as being a loner or a possible school shooter before that even happened. And when I looked, when I was first about to start this video, I was on this page, and I looked, and I'm like, whoa. Whoops. 43.5% of shooters were bullied. 70% of shooters were described as being a loner, and 3.5 million people in the US are diagnosed with schizophrenia. Which, pretty much exactly what I was going to say, but yeah, so I know I've given people a lot to think about, and please post your comments about this in the comment section, and tell me what you think, because I know I just delivered a lot of stuff that people need to think about. And if you support people banning guns, then please say, and please say that and say why you think that. And if you want to argue with the AR-15 thing, you can definitely, sorry, not argue, but if you want to comment on that, because it is not an assault weapon or rifle or anything like that. So, if you have any comments, suggestions, any criticizing to do it in the comments, and I'll see you later. If this thing will work. Okay, bye. Sorry for the sadness. Bye.